afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Kathy, and I'm so excited because we've got a special guest today, Dr. Stephanie Sullivan from the Life University research team. And we're going to talk all about how you can participate in some research and what is actually going on to help our patients, help our communities, and obviously to help chiropractic get its message out to the public. So good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying yes, because I know your schedule is just absolutely insane with everything that you are involved in and everything that you're working on to help push the profession forward. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right in and let's just start talking.
Okay. Sounds wonderful.
Okay. So tell us about what you're involved in. So sorry. Okay. Go ahead and tell us about what you're involved in and what's going on at Life University.
Okay. So, well, we have several different lines of research that we're working on. One that we're really hoping to connect with local chiropractors is something called our Chiropractors Adjusting for Research Team, or what we call CART. We realize that in a lot of different research studies, you can design an amazing study, but the instant we take the patient encounter out of how it normally occurs in a practice environment, it just changes the entire dynamic. So oftentimes the results that chiropractors see in their practices aren't always reflected in the studies that are shown in the chiropractic profession, or really any profession overall, right? So what we're trying to do is really capture that true to life experience that our patients have. So by working with volunteer chiropractors in the local Atlanta area, then we're asking the chiropractors to volunteer their time to provide care to the patients. Most of the time, it's going to be the way they would normally provide care. And then they just come into our lab, which is located in Midtown Atlanta. And that's when we do all the fun assessments. Like, we have an autonomic nervous system battery where we're trying to understand how is chiropractic care influencing the autonomic nervous system? Because so many conditions like colon cancer, which is a study that we're currently in recruitment for, like metabolic syndrome, post-concussion syndrome, depression, all of those have foundations that have been linked to autonomic nervous system dysfunction. So we'll bring the patients in, we'll assess them from using our autonomic nervous system battery. We do things like EEG. We have a 64-channel EEG where we're examining, okay, well, how is that linked to brain changes? What's going on in the individual? And then movement, right? You can't forget about movement. It's something we observe on a daily basis with our patients. So we're just using our technology to be able to track it. So by working with the doctors, then we get true to life care, and then we're able to measure it in the lab just at smaller increments for our patients.
This is so intriguing to me because I'm one of those chiropractors that says it's not about how you feel, it's about how you function. And to be able to not only have the research, but have ways to document and measure function with different people. And then for doctors like myself out in the community to be able to participate in research, but it doesn't mean I have to sit there and write papers, right? Because I remember when the students would come and say, oh, can we do one of your patients for research? My answer was always, do I have to write the paper? Do I have to do anything more than just see the patient? So in order for us to be able to participate and not have to do that part of the work that most of us don't excel at, this CART program sounds fantastic.
Wonderful. Yeah, we want to leverage what you do best. And then that way we can collect the data and write the paper so you don't have to. So
I love it. And then it provides the research that's so beneficial for our community, so beneficial for, sharing out in different journals and, out for the public to be able to actually see that.
Right. We really consider what we do in the CCR, Center for Chiropractic Research, is telling the chiropractic story using the language of research, because you see amazing changes in your patients every day. It's how do we work with you to find a way to capture that information and then share it with a broader community.
So for a doctor that hasn't sat and had a conversation with you or one of your team members before, if they enter into this, are they going and actively asking their existing patients, hey, do you have an issue with this that we could put you into this? How does that work for these doctors and the patients that they'll see?
That's a great question. So it may be that there are some existing patients, but the way we're working it now is, for example, with our colon cancer study. So we're recruiting across the metro Atlanta area. And whenever we have a patient, we find out where they're at. And then we refer them to a chiropractor that's local to them. Because just like with our post-stroke study, what we found is once the patients start chiropractic care, they're like, this is amazing. I can't believe the study's already over. Can I continue with my chiropractor? And of course, the answer is always yes. So it's really designed to connect with the patients in the area, then find a chiropractor that's local to them, that's one of our CART chiropractors, and then make the referral. So
I love that. And then how can a doctor that's watching this or watching the replay, how can they, what do they need? What are the requirements in order for them? I know as a peak doctor, there's a certain amount of time that you have to have been in practice and a certain volume of patients. What are the requirements for a doctor that's watching this now?
okay. So they need to be in practice at least 3 to 5 years. It really depends on the different research study. And so they need to be willing to take some human subjects training. So we call it a city. So it can take about 3 to 4 hours where you're sitting down and you're either reading information or you're watching a video just to make sure that we do no harm whenever we're conducting the research. So this just allows our ethics approval board to know that the doctors who are working with us have had some level of training. Now, we do provide a $100 stipend. It's not much, but at least it's something for the doctor's time. And then for studies that have specific training, then we've worked with our postgrad department to be able to get continuing education courses. So for example, the colon cancer study has a specific protocol that you'll implement in your practice. And let me take a step back. So we've tried to keep everything we do with the studies seamless within your practice. We don't really want to change anything, right? Because it's all about getting that normal and customary patient experience. So, but for example, this is the colon cancer study is just upper cervical only. So we have a 1 to 2 hour continuing education training for that clinician. Most of the other studies, it's you come in and you provide care. And from time to time, we'll do additional training sessions that we'll have continuing education for.
Now, would the doctors actually come to the lab in Midtown Atlanta, or they can do this online?
So both. For the most part, we've only held them through Zoom just because it's easy, right? And everyone's schedule can be a challenge pulling folks together. So,
okay. So for the doctors that are watching this and they're saying, okay, I meet the criteria, I've been in practice long enough, I've got my practice, I'm willing to participate in this, I'm willing to do the training, what is the next step?
So it's really just reaching out and letting us know that you're interested. You can connect at ccr.life.edu and just select the link for chiropractors adjusting for research team. And then let's say you're not in the local Atlanta area, but you just want to stay involved, then we also have Research Link, and that you can get on our email list and we can just send you updates about what's going on. Because for us, it's so important to stay connected with the clinicians, right? Because you all are the experts in providing care, and you're going to see something on a daily basis in your practice that we may miss just seeing the individuals coming in periodically. So we want to make sure that we have this dialogue. You know what we're doing, and you're providing input on how we can do what we do better, and then also things that you see. So Research Link and CART, there are links at our website.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute.
Okay.
Because I know there's some people who are watching that are like, we don't need any more research. The patients justify it, right? Because we've all heard those sayings before. I don't need to document. The patients already do it for me, right? There's people who really are under the impression that we don't need any more research in chiropractic. So can you answer that concern?
I love that question. All right, so think about it from the perspective of gravity. right? We've known gravity's existed since, before there were humans, right? Every toddler knows if they drop the banana, a parent is going to come pick it up and hand it back to them. But it wasn't until we started understanding how gravity works that we could really make these phenomenal changes. This is when we can put spacecraft in the air. This is when we can fly across the country. We can build these amazing architectural structures that seem to defy gravity. So it's by understanding what's going on kind of under the hood or behind the scenes with gravity that you're able to make these big differences and these leaps in the technology. I see chiropractic research as the same way. Yes, manual therapy, chiropractic, adjusting has been around since, Hippocrates and before, right? They've been doing bone setting. And it's when we take the time to really understand what's going on, that's when we're really able to say, hey, you know what? Look at these changes in autonomic nervous system function. Well, hey, did you know that colon cancer patients have a greater likelihood of success if their autonomic nervous system is functioning appropriately? Do you know that individuals with hypertension are less likely to have a early death if their autonomic nervous system is functioning appropriately? So if we can understand what's going on with chiropractic care, then we're really able to show all those differences that we see as chiropractors in our practices. So
I love that. Thank you. That is a very, very perfect answer. I don't even have words for it because I do hear this all the time. I hear it from the students who come through the office as interns. I hear it from the students, when I'm teaching on campus, but I hear it a lot from doctors in the profession that are like, we don't need any more science. We don't need any more research. We don't need any of that. But you know what? We do. And the public needs to see that because the public has misperceptions, right? They've got misconceptions about what chiropractic is. They've have a different perception than what we believe it to be. And it helps to be able to show here's some research that backs up what we see in our offices every day. It wasn't just a fluke. Chiropractors are seeing this around the world. So can you tell us about some of the studies that are either already done or already in the process, in addition to the ones that we just mentioned?
sure, absolutely. So some of the ones that we've just finished. So we did chiropractic applied clinical neuroscience with depression patients. So these are individuals who have medication resistant depression. We've shown some pretty remarkable changes in these patients with chiropractic care. Some of them went from being, so we did patient reported outcomes. We also measured brain changes and things like that. But what's meaningful to the patients is how their symptoms improve. So they went from reporting from their depression symptoms being reported as severe, and this is depression, anxiety, and stress, to just mild, and in some cases they went away. Some patients were able, while we don't, we always refer them to their medical professional. We don't recommend they come off medication, but some patients were able to come off medication during the study. So that's one of the really exciting studies that we just wrapped up data collection on. Let's see, we've seen some remarkable brain changes in some of our studies that have just wrapped up, and we're finishing the analysis on it. So that's more to come there. One that I absolutely love is that we measured changes in a control, a sham, which is like our placebo adjustment, and then also in a chiropractic adjustment. So we use sacral occipital technique. Jerry Hockman was our clinician for this study. And what we've seen is immediately following chiropractic care, then the brain would start to shift. So let me back up. We were measuring the direction and magnitude of information flow within the brain. So we looked at 14 different areas within the brain that had been shown to change with chiropractic care and with cognitive task performance, specifically a mental rotation task, which is kind of how you turn objects in your mind. So we pulled those areas in the brain out, and we wanted to look at how do the connections between those areas change with chiropractic care. So this one gives me goosebumps. What we noticed is with chiropractic care, right after the adjustment, before the adjustment, information flow was coming from your more primitive medial brain structures, right? Right after the adjustment, then it started going, the information flow started coming from your prefrontal cortex, which is your newer area of the brain, which is like your executive function, your response inhibition, how you remember things, how you pay attention to someone in front of you. That's all your prefrontal cortex. So the information flow started shifting right after the adjustment. And here's the cool part. 1 week later, it completely shifted. So now it's your prefrontal cortex, not your medial brain structures, that are actually driving the information flow. I mean, that's powerful, especially considering with stress, which, we're all subjected to it these days. Stress affects the prefrontal cortex initially. That's one of the first areas of the brain impacted with stress. So chiropractors, at least from this study, and then in some of the other studies that show changes in the prefrontal cortex, we're able to make an impact in that region of the brain that really helps us interact more effectively with our world and the people within it. So that to me is some of the really exciting research that's going in. Of course, more needs done, right? But that's what we're starting to show.
So what I'm hearing from that is that people no longer have to just react off of autopilot, but they're learning to think and discern and make decisions after being adjusted because they're responding better to stress instead of just freaking out with their normal reaction.
So, while we didn't test those specific areas, I'm a researcher, so we always
right. You gotta be careful how you say this.
I'm like, okay, but the area of the brain that's influenced the prefrontal cortex is the area of the brain that's most likely, or the area of brain associated with the abilities to make a better decision.
So she said it technically correct. I just said it the way I'm going to say it to my people in my office. But that is the way that you want to say it when you're communicating it out to your, fellow healthcare providers out in the community. But I got you.
Yeah, research suggests that chiropractic has an impact on the prefrontal cortex, which has been associated with changes in executive function performance. So, yeah.
Rewind, play that again. Let those words come out of your mouth when you're talking in your community, but understand that's powerful. What Dr. Stephanie just said, that is powerful. Thank you so much for doing that research. That is phenomenal. That just blows my brain away. It really does.
Thanks. We're excited. What really got me involved in neurosciences was my patients would get up and they're like, I know it's time for me to get adjusted when my brain gets foggy, right? Or I just think better. So hearing that from my patients, and that's why the interaction with you as clinicians is so important. Then that's kind of what led me down the path to go get my PhD in neuroscience. So, yeah.
I'm glad you did.
Thanks. I'm enjoying it. So
yeah, the profession at large is glad you did. And even those that don't know it should be glad that you did, because it's people who are willing to take that next step, like yourself, like Heidi Havoc, who are willing to do the work that most of us don't want to do. Like, I don't want to talk about all that stuff anymore. We've done it. We've been through school. We've been through our boards. We want to talk about things the way we talk about them in our practice, but the work that you do, the work that the research team behind you does, is what empowers us to have the conversations with our patients with the backing of, yes, this has been studied. Yes, research has shown, right? So that is fantastic. So a big thank you for everything that you do, because I know it's a lot. It really is.
Well, thank you. And thanks for being willing to have me and to share the information. So hopefully docs will get involved.
Absolutely. Docs, we've got the link right down there on your screen at ccr.life.edu. You'll want to find out about becoming a CART doctor. You can also find out about more information about that research link on that website. So Dr. Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, truly.
Absolutely. And I want to just take a quick moment to remind everybody that do not forget, next week coming up, we have our golf tournament. That is on Thursday, October 19th. That's Chiro Cup. You are going to go to the golf tournament at Bridgeville, and then you're going to head on over to DE because it's going to be a phenomenal chiropractic weekend. So you can get all the information on our website at georgiachiropractic.org or at Chiro Cup. But head on over. You can register if you still want to send in your sponsorship. Just let us know. We'll be happy to get you registered for that. If you want to register, it's lifede.com. That's how you can register for DE. And then, of course, we have our continuing ed events coming up to wrap up this year. November, we're going to be in Savannah. December, we'll be back in the Marietta area. And of course, that's our big convention with our Christmas party. So lots of stuff coming up for you. We still have more to go. The year is not over yet. We'll make sure that you get all of your CEs before this year is wrapped up. And with that, I will say we'll see you next Wednesday for another episode of GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. And we'll see you Thursday at our golf tournament. Thank you, Dr. Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.